Hey, it's Pete Mundo, and you're listening to Mike Delivers with Mike Biseglia. We work together at CBS Sports Radio. Great guy. Never had him as a delivery guy since I now live in Kansas City, but I know he delivers a hell of a podcast.
Need more Mike Delivers? Head over to patreon.com or download the Patreon app and type in Mike Delivers. Get a full catalog of bonus podcasts like the one time Mike crashed his wife's 2007 Toyota RAV4, behind-the-scenes videos, and more food reviews. Go to Patreon and check it out now.
My name is Mike Biseglia. I'm 37 years old, and I use the Lawnmower 3.0. Use my promo code Mike Delivers, all one word, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping on your own Lawnmower 3.0. What is the Lawnmower 3.0? It is an electric trimmer that cleans your ball hair. I recommend it, I use it, and it's helped my life tremendously. As a 37-year-old that's feeling bad about himself because he turned 37 and the age has turned a corner, the best thing I have going for me right now is the Lawnmower 3.0. Use my promo code Mike Delivers, all one word. You get 20% off. You can even have mine. You can have my used Lawnmower 3.0.
Welcome inside Mike Delivers from his wife's 2017 Toyota RAV4. Here's your host, Mike Biseglia.
That's right. This is Mike Delivers, episode number 77. And I'm your host, Mike Biseglia. And I'm coming to you from my wife's closet in Bloomfield, New Jersey. You can find the Mike Delivers podcast where all major podcasts are found, including Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, and many more. And if you go onto the Apple podcast, please go ahead and give a 5-star rating and leave a comment in the comments section. I will read those comments. I will sing those comments in a future episode of Mike Delivers. Today on the podcast, I have Shaun Morash. Shaun will be making his second appearance on the Mike Delivers podcast. Shaun is a colleague of mine at CBS Sports Radio. He is a host, he is a producer, but more importantly, he spent 10 years as an employee at the Subway franchise. 10 years. I didn't know that. I thought Shaun spent a couple years, but a decade of his life was spent working at Subway. And as you guys know, part of my May Madness experience with my wife, we have been trying different sandwich shops, national chains, and one of them for May Madness was Subway. So I wanted to talk to somebody that could give me some insight on what it was like working for a Subway franchise for 10 years, and that's Shaun Morash. So he's a host, he's a producer at CBS. Who gives a shit about that stuff? I want to get the in and outs of what it was like working for Subway, starting at a young age and then making his way up the ranks before eventually moving on to the radio side of things. And I'm joking, Shaun, of course. I'm all into all your radio shit. Super cool that you're successful and awesome. But you know what? I wanted to hear about the Subway experience, so we'll get to that in a matter of moments. And I mentioned May Madness with the Patreon page. Let me explain what I'm saying here. You heard the little gimmick before the episode starts. If you want to find out how I crashed, I took the car and crashed my wife's 2007 Toyota RAV4. You can hear that story on the Patreon page, but I do want to tell everybody I've revamped it. First off, what the hell is Patreon? So it is an extension of the Mike Delivers podcast experience. It's bonus episodes, bonus food reviews, bonus videos. Now a couple of new components on there as well. So if you go to the Mike Delivers Patreon page, you get extra episodes, future different food reviews, and you also get a video experience of the podcast. You get to see my wife and I sit down, and not just the audio version, you'll get the video version of Mike Delivers. And as you've heard on this podcast recently, I did a couple of sandwich shops, tried Jersey Mike's. We had Subway that we tried. But we also had the Firehouse Subs, and coming out in a couple of days is from Panera Bread. But there's a Wawa episode out there. You can only get the Wawa episode about the meatball sub. That's on the Patreon page. How do you sign up? It's in the show notes. Click on it. signs up like any other website, name, email, the whole gimmick. You can also get the app on your phone, just Patreon, Patreon, and sign up there. It's a couple of bucks a month. I highly recommend it. It goes to feeding my cat. So that's where this money goes. It goes to Leon so he can stay nourished and not be a pain in my ass. So please sign up to the Mike Delivers Patreon page and you can get bonus content. Big shout out to the O'Brien Creative Group. They're the guys that created the Mike Delivers logo. And more than just the logo, it's all about brand identity with these guys. So I kind of full circle with everything in the Patreon page and the Mike Delivers podcast. It's all a bigger component, and the O'Brien Creative Group is the one that's kind of massaging me, tickling my head, and making it all look good. I mean, the logo looks great. You guys see that. I don't have to tell that to you. But if you're looking for brand identity, awareness for your small business, your company, maybe even your own podcast, I highly recommend these dudes. They've been awesome. Also, those food review videos I do, they put the borders around it together. Sick nasty, as I used to say. I love that. More information on the O'Brien Creative Group as well in my show notes. Before I get to my conversation with Shaun Morash, I think it's kind of interesting to talk about what's been going on during this pandemic with restaurants, with Uber Eats, and not just Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, etc. These third-party apps, the one I, have made a career on, a podcast on like Uber Eats, are really screwing local restaurants, and they are taking so much of the money that it sucks because these restaurants, obviously, they can't have their customers coming into their restaurant anymore, redundant with the word, but it's changed the game. It's a lot more food delivery. So with that said, these companies are taking advantage of the restaurants and screwing them out of a lot of money. So they need to be called out on from that. It's not cool. And I'm looking forward to on Thursday, I actually have a conversation with one of the co-owners of a company called Lunchbox, and they have a great idea, and their company's exploding. It's awesome, where they install in the restaurant their own version of the Uber Eats or the Grubhub, so they don't have to worry about being, screwed and having all this money taken away from them. I'll get into that conversation. You'll hear that next week. I'm really excited to talk to Andrew from Lunchbox. I think that'll be an experience where I'll learn a lot, you'll learn a lot, and we'll try to get an understanding of what the hell has been going on here during this pandemic, where people in restaurants are getting screwed left and right. Not only can you go into their business, but now Uber Eats and Grubhub and DoorDash are taking advantage of this because they know that these restaurants have no other choice. Kind of messed up. So I'm not happy about that. It's not really a great thing that's going on. It's screwing restaurants, but I will be looking forward to my conversation with Andrew, who's got something that I think will be very helpful for restaurants moving forward. I know Bear Burger in New Jersey uses this. So when you order Bear Burger, it's a third-party app. The driver could help from it, but they're able to keep more of their profits in the restaurant. So especially for some of these local businesses right now, like this is a must that has to happen. So we'll get into some of that conversation next week. I'm going to read my Facebook responses after the Shaun Morash interview. The topic was the snack that you've been going to in quarantine. I'll read off those answers on the back end. But here's my combo. It's with Shaun Morash. He is a former Subway artisan. He's the dude that made the Subway sandwiches. He worked at one in Long Island for 10 years, and now he's a CBS Sports Radio national host, national producer. So if you work for Subway 10 years, you can make your way to become a host. Anyway, there's no exact correlation between that two. Maybe it's just a coincidence, or maybe Subway is the key to Shaun Morash's life. Let's find out. Here's my conversation with a 10-year Subway veteran, Shaun Morash. It's a Mike Delivers podcast, and we're joined right now by a CBS Sports Radio host and producer and a friend of about a couple of years now. He's been on this podcast in the past, way back in its infancy. It was like episode, I don't know, a long time ago. Shaun Morash. Shaun, thank you for hopping on Mike Delivers. How are you doing?
Mikey Delivers. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I thought of you the other day because my wife and I, for the May Madness of our sandwich trying, we went with the spicy Italian from Subway, and then I remembered, I think Shaun Morash worked at Subway for a couple years, and then in our pre-production meeting that took hours, you told me that you worked at Subway for 10 years.
Decade hard time is what I tell people. Yeah, I started off as somebody, just learning how to bake bread, and by the end, I was in regional meetings for my Subway stores as a representative.
Unbelievable. All right. So what year did you start and how old were you?
I started at 16 years old. It was September 2003. It was the first job I ever had. I was a junior in high school, and I went on to work in multiple Subway stores owned by the same owners. There was a family, and by the end, when I started interning and then working part time in radio, I used both my Subway money and my part time radio money to keep me afloat before eventually becoming full time at CBS Sports Radio. So from 2003 to 2013, the fall of each was my pillar to post decade at Subway.
Blowing my mind that it was that long. I don't know why, but in my head, I just assumed it would be like 3 or 4 years. I had no idea it
No.
was a decade.
Yeah, you'll if you stick around me long enough, you'll know I don't like change. So it never, it always dawned on me. Other friends would ask, "Hey, oh, you've worked at Subway for 3 years, now you want to try something else?" And my answer would be, "Well, nothing I'm going to try now is my career. So why the heck would I leave somewhere and then start at the bottom and be working worse hours? I'd rather just stick this out until eventually I find a career." So that was always my mentality.
So why did you decide at 16 years old that Subway would be the place for your first job?
So they were opening their first location in my town of West Babylon, Long Island. It was right across the street from West Babylon High School. So number one, I could walk to high school. I lived behind it. Number two, this allowed me to be able to walk after work and walk home if I needed to, because I was also saving up to get a car. The other thing that helped is we had a family friend whose friend was opening this Subway location. And through that, I was interested in applying. And then I found out, oh, wow, I have a hook with who knows the owner. So I got an interview. And they took a shot on me. At that point, I had very greasy hair. I had some acne, and away I went as a 16-year-old making sandwiches.
Do you remember that interview at all? Were you nervous? Do you remember like what do they ask you as a 16-year-old going for an interview at Subway?
So I do, because it's funny. I made a lot of lifelong friends at Subway, and I'm still friends with that original owner. Specifically, her son is one of my best friends. So that's how we met back in the day. But yeah, we talk about that meeting anytime we get together, and it was just, what can you bring to the table? What is this? And my resume was absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I just basically had to sell myself like, well, I'm going to work hard. I get good grades in school, and I won't eat all your profits. It's basically the only way the interview went. And, they didn't, to be fair, they didn't know what they were looking for either. They were just looking for kids that would sit there and come into work after work and work on Saturdays, Sundays, and piece together some kind of schedule. And I was one of the people that fit.
Now, the stuff you must have seen in your 10 years there, I mean, I'm sure you have story upon stories of just everything from nastiness to rude customers to, I can't believe I put that in the sandwich after it was in this place. I mean, the stories must be insane for you.
I could write a book. I could write a book on a lot of the stuff. I mean, there's one story that, sticks with me forever. And that is, I get to be, let's say 18, and me and my buddies go down to Robert Moses Beach on Long Island. And we get this idea at Biseglia on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to walk, because if you walked about a mile down by Fire Island, there ended up being a nude beach. We get down to the nude beach, Mike, and it's not what we imagined. We had these dreams of 18 years old, like you're going to see really good looking chicks and, wow, boobs are going to be out. And then you get there and it's a lot of dudes. And specifically, one of the first people I saw butt naked was this guy, 6'5", just everything hanging. And he was a ridiculously loyal Subway customer. And he struck up a conversation with me as he's standing there naked on the beach, like, "Oh, you go off from work today?" And I had to sit there and awkwardly, because he was like a friendly customer, have a conversation, not knowing he was a nude beach guy. And then every time he would come in after that, he would think we were friends. And I could never, ever make this man sandwich without ever picturing his what hanging. And he always, bro, to this day, I can tell you, he always got a meatball and always wanted 2 extra balls. The irony of this. Anytime he would order the sandwich after then, how do you not just always picture this guy naked? I have never seen him since I left Subway, but I still could pick every crevice of his hairy body to this day. So, yeah, to me, that's one of the craziest things that ever happened to me with Subway, is running into a customer at a nude beach, as I thought I was going to scout on girls.
Yeah, when he's like ordering, "Hey, I want a footlong." You're like, "Yeah, I know. I've seen your dick, buddy. I don't need to hear this again."
Exactly. And, on top of that, I mean, there have been other stuff that's happened, like where, I'm not going to lie, I did some stupid stuff where, like, you would get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, inventory is very tight, especially when a Subway starts, and you don't want to like be responsible because you threw out $7 worth of turkey. So there's definitely been moments where I dropped stuff on the floor, and was like, nobody was around, and let me put this up and put it. And they call the canisters, they're Cambros. You would put it in a Cambro.
Okay.
And I would do that a lot. I get real queasy about tuna to this day because the way tuna's made there is just so gross. And you realize, like, a lot of the eat fresh stuff about freshness, outside of slicing a green pepper or maybe cutting a tomato in half, there's nothing fresh about Subway. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen it all, bro, but there are some things where I just, because of my 10 years of working there, I probably will never have a Subway sandwich.
Well, I was going to ask you that in a little bit, but I guess we'll just get to it now. So you won't do it. Like, you just like, I cannot eat this thing anymore, just from OD'd in there. Excuse me.
Yeah, and look, I'm not telling anybody here who's listening to this to not have Subway by any means. I think most Subways do a good job, and the Subways I worked at were really clean. I know that one story I just told probably makes it seem like it wasn't. It's just, dude, like, when you sit there and you're around the food and you smell it all day and you make it all day, and then you always got, by the way, for every 4 hours you worked a free 6-inch. So if you worked an 8-hour shift, which I did a lot, you got yourself a free foot long, and nobody was really keeping track. You have as much cookies as you want, chips as you want. I did it all, bro. And I worked 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. I really did work hard. I ate Subway almost every day for 10 years, almost every day. So to me, there is no point in me ever eating a Subway sandwich again because I'm never in the mood for it. Like, never once since I left, I was like, well, I could really go for this. I'm so taxed on Subway. Forget that.
If you had to pick one item to eat and you had to, which one would you have from there?
I would go with a chicken teriyaki. Because it's unique, right? I mean, you could go to Subway, Jersey Mike's, Quiznos, Blimpie, or your standard deli, and you could get a sandwich with Italian cold cuts, a sandwich with American cold cuts, a grilled chicken sandwich, or anything like that. But the chicken teriyaki was really like ahead of its time, right? It was like, wow, you could put like an Asian sauce on chicken and put it on a sandwich. Like, think about that. Like, in 2003, that's kind of revolutionary. I know it sounds stupid, so I always thought the chicken teriyaki was super unique. I am credited, by the way, Mike, with being the first person on Long Island who ever put a bacon on a chicken teriyaki sandwich. I really started patting that out. And there are people who will tell you to this day, you go to the Westbound Bohemia Subway, Shaun Morash started that. So, yeah, chicken teriyaki, if I could throw some bacon on there, because that was something classic, something I kind of got unique with, I would absolutely have that again.
Did you ever find while working at Subway like a sense of rivalry against like a Quiznos or anything like that? Or did you just say, you know what, I'm working here at Subway, I really don't give a shit about the other places?
Rivalry? Bro, true story. I can't believe I'm giving you a bro like I'm bingo here. True story. I'm working with my friend now for many years, Tommy Rico, whose mom owned the Subway we were working at. Whatever, if I give his last name. And one night we're working, it's Friday night. And, you know, we try to make Friday nights fun there. We'd have the music blasting. We have fun with it. And it's getting quiet downtime. So let's say we close at 10 p.m. The dinner rush is like 6 to 7:30. So 8 o'clock we're in the middle of cleaning. I haven't eaten yet. I'm not in the mood for my free sandwich. He says he's not in the mood either. They start looking at places to deliver. Dude, I kid you not. This has to be 2005, if not 2006. We get Quiznos delivered to Subway. To eat. Like, I was in the mood, like, toasty Quiznos thing was big at the point. Like, at that point, too, Subway was transitioning and building. Subway didn't have toaster ovens when I first started. They got toaster ovens because Quiznos really exploded on the scene.
Right.
So we legitimately, Mike, ordered Quiznos, had the guy full Quiznos outfit come into Subway, deliver it to us. And we also ordered during the dead time. As he delivered it to us, we had like 5 customers online who all just immediately started laughing, going, "Are you kidding me? We're here getting Subway and you guys work here and you won't even eat it? You're ordering Quiznos that delivered in this place?" So no. Is there a rivalry? Absolutely not. In fact, there were times I preferred the rivals and ate them in-house.
That is hysterical. And I imagine that the ownership wouldn't be too thrilled with seeing the Quiznos guys in there. Did you feel like when you were making this sandwich that you were a true sandwich artist, or was it just I'm slopping on meat on bread and let me get through this?
You are. So they give you this whole spiel about being a sandwich artist, and there's actually something called Subway University where you like take classes online to learn all of like the training stuff. And there's no doubt as a 16-year-old, you will absolutely roll your eyes, go, or even I guess any age when you first get out, like sandwich artist, oh, give me a break, I'm not Picasso. And then there comes a light switch for some people if you're there more than a month, which some people are making a month, where you kind of get into the idea of sandwich artistry. So yeah, I mean, you kind of paint the picture, man. Like, you know the exact amount of slices of meat, of cheese, the amount of vegetables that go on every single sandwich. Like, I have it all memorized to this day. And then like the way you kind of orchestrate and build the sandwich up, like there's an art to it. You know, you put the lettuce down, you put 6 slices of tomato, you put 6 slices of cucumber, then maybe 6 pickles, and you're kind of almost building like pyramids of tomato to cucumber to pickle to banana pepper. And you want it to look perfect, and then you kind of get that knife in there and you hold it just so to close that sandwich up, give it the perfect diagonal cut, and then the wrapping, there's some artistry to it. You really can have some fun with it and get into it. And I certainly looked at myself as a sandwich artist. I will tell anybody this day I was a sandwich artist.
All right, Shaun. Then what's on the chicken and bacon ranch melt? Go.
The chicken bacon ranch melt is real simple. That is 2 boats, or if you will, now I think they've changed the scooper since, of the shredded or cut up grilled chicken. There will be 4 slices of a cheese of your choice, 4 strips of bacon. You will then toast that, come out, and you will give it 3 lines of ranch dressing, and then top it with whatever vegetables you want. And the vegetables, if it's a 6 inch, will always come in forms of 3. If it's a full inch, it will come in forms of 6. So again, 6 tomato, 6 cucumber, all of that. Where it didn't really make sense is they would want you to put like 6 olives on it, but they're so tiny, so you would like pile it on. But yeah, it's always that chicken, that bacon. It's 4 strips of bacon, 4 pieces of cheese, and 2 boats of chicken. Away we go.
You talked about earlier in this episode your disdain for the classic tuna. What was it about the tuna you didn't like from Subway?
So, I mean, look, whenever you make a tuna at home, you crack open that can, I'm sure, you mix it with some mayo. But because you kind of have to like mass make tuna, if you will, it comes in this thin aluminum foil package and you pour it into this bowl and everything is so tight and stuck together. And you have to get these plastic gloves on and you just go to town with your hands in these gloves and the smell of tuna starts kicking up in your face and you're just shredding the tuna in between your fingertips. Then when that's all done, you have to take this big gloopy glop bag of mayonnaise, cut it open with a scissor. It just kind of squirts in there like it's making a fart noise, right? You do that right in there. And now you get back in with your hands, Biseglia. Mike delivers. I'm sorry, however you're going on this. And you just kind of crunch the tuna and mayo together, and that smell just wafts into your nose. And you keep doing one of these over the bowl, and everybody does. I don't know anybody I've worked with this Subway who ever enjoyed tuna fish after working there because of like just the amount you make and how the breaking up and the way the mayo sounds and smells. It's a disaster.
Did it piss you off when people wanted to modify their order and it wasn't kept to what the Subway standards were? Like, hey, I want, extra this, get rid of that. Did that bother you?
It didn't bother me unless they had a problem when I went to the register and like we had to charge, right? So it's really, Subway is so itemized, and I mentioned this earlier with their inventory. So if you want to like figure this out and go, all right, let's say you want a chicken bacon ranch, you want to add salami to that. I'm going to put 6 slices of salami on there. People did that all the time, stuff like that. But you're going to get charged, let's say, the price you would get charged if you wanted to add bacon to something. And then if like their receipt would take that, like, I didn't get bacon on this. And we don't have an add salami, but you modified something that's off script. I got to make up for that somehow inventory wise to make up the cost. And then they throw their hands in there and basically try to fight like they shouldn't be paying extra because it's not something that would exist. You'd be surprised how many times people did this and not understand. Or they wanted basically to add 2 meats to something, and then I had to charge them the double meat cost, which is another button on the POS system. They'd be like, well, I didn't get double the meat. I just added different kinds of meat. Well, that's double the meat. And people have the most ridiculous arguments over that, like not understanding how we have to charge you, and that it isn't like Blaze Pizza or Chipotle where it becomes a free-for-all and everything. Now, you can put as many vegetables as you want in there, but if you're going off your standard meat and then you want to add something to that, I didn't mind. I just minded when it came to ring you out, and then suddenly there was an issue with why you were being charged the way you were being charged.
Did you ever get into it with a customer where they were yelling at you, and maybe you were like, they crossed the line and you yelled back?
A couple times. One time in particular, Mike. It's almost edgy, so I'll try to word this the right way. 2 men were together who were homosexual, and it's again totally fine. They walk into a Subway, they order, and they were friendly, right? We're serving them food, and I got to the end, and a common question, Mike, when you ask somebody if they want to pay is simple Subway lingo. Are you guys together or separate? And that's all you ask because you want to know whether we're
say that part again, Shaun.
When you get to the register at Subway, if you were with a group of people, this goes for friends, this goes for relatives. For the most part, you probably wouldn't do this if it was a dad and his kids or something. But you always ask, are you together or are you separate?
Got it.
So
okay.
I got to the point where I was ringing out this apparently homosexual gay couple, And I asked them, are you together or separate? They went ballistic on me that I would even dare ask that question, that why is it not okay for them to be together? How could I even suggest
Right.
that they would be separate? And it became this big screaming match where they actually wrote a letter to corporate about me.
Oh,
And
God.
corporate had to send an email to my bosses. My bosses were totally cool, and I had to explain the story, but then it ended up leading because you get like a check every month. Like corporate comes in and they inspect your store, which is a good part about Subway. They want to make sure everything is to the T, clean and all this. And I needed to be there for this meeting, dude, to explain myself because they were very worried and like big negative Subway reviews that Subway somehow questioned having like 8 couples in. When all it was a simple question we ask every customer: are you together or are you separate? But it went so
Right.
over the top in a criticism. That was probably the biggest fight I ever got to at Subway. And it was just me trying to innocently defend myself because it was so crazy.
How do you think Subway is run as a franchise? And I think you alluded to it a little bit with the checks and balances, keeping charts of all the food. What was your experience from just working in a franchise, and how did you think they ran everything?
I thought they ran everything really well, but I think the counterpoint would be I don't think I'd ever own a Subway because I believe that when you own a franchise, now part of the reason you're buying in is they're going to do the advertising for you. You're buying into a name brand. You're not just opening up Joe's Deli, right? You're opening up a name brand that people can have, and that's all part of franchising. But at the same time, you could own a Subway, but you don't really own it. Yes, your money's into it. You're the one, doing the books and all of that, but you don't have any freedom to really make any decisions for your own. Whatever Subway tells you have to do, whatever advertisements you want to run, whatever specials you got to run, like Subway is making that call for you, unless you want to run it up the ladder, and then it becomes a whole big deal. Like if let's say your business suffered on a Sunday, which happened a lot with Subway. Subways are not very busy on Sundays, and you wanted to run some kind of buy 2 footlongs for $8.99 coupon special to run in your local newspaper. It might take you 2 months to get approved by Subway. So while I think Subway itself did a good job of making sure their stores were tidy, were clean, everything was uniform, at the same time, I think it really has a negative impact if you're looking to invest your hard-earned money to buy into something and own something of your own. You're really not owning the Subway. You are in money, but you aren't in decision making, and that would drive me insane if I was an owner. And I think that's the one negative part about Subway.
I got you. So I don't really know much about this, so maybe my question's silly, maybe it isn't. If you own the Subway franchise in X City, Long Island, do the people that own that particular Subway make the same amount in any different location, or
No.
is their revenue based on how the actual Subway, does?
Your revenue is based on your location. So, I mean, and a lot of these stores would be rivals. That's why you go to these regional meetings that it would be, the Subway owner from two towns over maybe making double the income you're making. And then it becomes, well, how are you doing this? What can I do to do better? And that's why they like to do these meetings. But no, you're only making what your store outputs. And then you have to pay your franchise fee to Subway. You're paying your inventory costs of ordering the food. You're paying out your employees, and you're paying the rent. You're paying the electric. But whatever's left at the end of that, if you're an owner, is what you make. So a lot of it's location, location, location. Subway is going to charge you a flat franchise fee. You got to pay that same amount of fee, whether you're making 3 times less than the person who owns that store or town over, or 3 times more. So it's all about finding your right location. But if your overhead cost is huge, if you have the wrong rent price, all of that, and you're not making as much money, you will sink. That's why it is so tricky. And it's not all Subways are fair. I mean, some guy might have paid the same franchise fee, the same opening fee, but he could be cleaning up because he just nailed a better location than you.
And why didn't they do well on Sundays? I thought, like with football and stuff, that would be a big order.
You would think. It isn't. Subway doesn't register. Sunday is a big family day for a lot of people. Also, the lack of drive-through, I think, hurts. I think the lack of delivery. Subway didn't deliver really in many of their locations, especially mine for those 10 years I worked here. Look, if you're watching football on a Sunday, you're either somebody stopping through that Taco Bell drive-through or White Castle drive-through, or they're having pizzas delivered, wings delivered. Remember, Mike, this is a time before Uber Eats, before DoorDash and all that. That just simply didn't exist back then on a Sunday. So when I worked, it was unless you wanted to physically get out of your car and walk into Subway and have somebody make your sandwich, you weren't going to be there. And Sundays, they weren't akin to that. That was Saturdays worked, Friday nights worked, even regular weeknights for quick dinners after little leagues and stuff worked. But Sunday afternoons, I'm telling you, you could do 3 times less on a Sunday than you would do on a Saturday on the Subway. It was insane. So much so that you got to the point where you would only have one person work instead of a team or 2 or 3 because it didn't financially make any sense to have that many hands on deck on a Sunday.
How do they make the meatballs? Do they come you in the back over there with you stirring a pot with grandma? How does that work?
No, they are a prepackaged bag. They come in this bag shipped to you, and it's pre-made sauce in a bag. And you take a plastic lining and you put it in one of these Cambro plastic containers. They're called. And you literally just dump the bag of meatballs in with a bag of sauce. Mix it up. You add a little bit of water to help it, and then you heat it in a microwave for 10 minutes. And then it goes into basically a canister with almost like a warming station with hot water. But you are taking meatballs right out of the fridge in a plastic bag, sauce out of a plastic bag, and you are heating it in a microwave, and that is how the meatballs come from Subway.
Now the bread, though, you said you were you baking it?
Yeah, that is the absolute fresh part about Subway. Eat fresh makes it seem like you're slicing the turkey and rolling the meatballs. No, no, no.
Right.
The eat fresh part is the baking the bread. You get these bread dough sticks that you need to thaw out of a freezer, and then you it's not like I'm rolling the yeast either. But once they thaw, you score them, which is you make these 4 lines that kind of makes the bread open up. And we have a proofer, and proofer is like this low heat humidity situation. If you're not aware of what it is, you put it in there for about an hour, a multiple loaves. I mean, for every tray bakes 4 loaves of bread. So you might bake 80 loaves in one proofer tour, and you let it rise for about an hour, and then you would throw it in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, and you would monitor it. And if you pulled it out too early, the bread would kind of collapse underneath you. If you pulled it out too long, maybe it'd be a little harder to cut. You had to time that and keep an eye out with your timers just right. There really was a certain artistry baking the bread and getting it right. But the bread at Subway, absolutely fresh, absolutely awesome. I wish, honestly, that you could just go to Subway and buy the bread. A lot of people used to ask that. We wouldn't do it because it would just get people to buy their own cold cuts somewhere else and sell the bread separate.
Right.
That's a big no-no with Subway, but I really wish you were able to, because I think to this day, although I don't eat Subway, I bet you on a Sunday, if my wife was making meatballs, I'd go buy a loaf of Italian urban cheese bread or something like that and just have it, make it my own garlic bread at home, because the Subway bread is awesome.
Was all that crazy shit going down with Jared when you were there?
No. I met Jared too. He came to one of the regional meetings. The Jared stuff happened right after. I'm talking about right after I was done. So I want to say, I bet you Jared was probably 2014, 15.
Okay.
But yeah, I was not there for all of that. At least it doesn't register that it was. I'm pretty sure I was firmly working in radio when that happened. But now I'm even having doubts when I say that. But I was not entrenched when the Jared thing happened. And I remember being like, wow, because I had met Jared a couple times. I didn't see that one come. Did not see that one come. But I always thought he was a fraud anyway. And that whole advertising campaign was fraudulent, Mike. Because if you remember, Jared lost all this weight eating Subway, and people go like, wow, okay, I can eat Subway and I can do this. And I think even a fat self like myself, I was duped. And then you start paying attention to the commercial and you realize it was because he was walking 5 miles back and forth to a Subway every day. That was his exercise. It wasn't that he was eating turkey processed from Subway. It was the exercise. It wasn't you driving up to the front door of Subway and getting out and ordering chicken teriyaki with bacon. People would be misconstrued. You'd have to order basically a veggie sandwich and walk back and forth to do what Jared did.
But it worked. I mean, their marketing worked. I mean, obviously it hit a snafu at the end, but it worked because, I mean, that was like legendary stuff with the Jared diet. I mean, people that you think Subway and losing weight in Jared, they were 1-1.
Exactly. And again, I could tell you, as somebody who gained weight working at Subway, eating it every day, couldn't be further from the truth.
Working at Subway for 10 years and now getting your foot in the door at radio, something I assume you wanted to do and were passionate about.
Right.
How did it make you feel when you got in the building, knowing all the hard work you put in over at Subway?
It was rewarding. And I think that's the one thing I'll always take at the time at Subway. I have funny stories and funny times, and I've made best friends that I've had to this day. But honestly, I think the grind at which I had Subway, where I knew I needed to hit certain things, right? Like I wanted to buy a car, and then like my parents would not pay for anything. I had to pay for my car insurance, and just knowing that I couldn't screw this job up and work my way up to get better hours, get off on weekends and stuff like that. I really worked hard at Subway, and I took it seriously, which a lot of kids don't do. And I think like instilling that in me, I think helped me understand the grind of radio and knowing that this wasn't going to be easy when I got into radio. And I worked a lot of holidays, as you did as well, when I first got in, and just putting my head down. And I think although Subway and radio are two completely different things, knowing that radio was my dream, I think a lot of what happened at Subway and the way I approached it helped me climb the radio ladder and instilled in me stuff that I don't know that I would have gotten at other jobs necessarily, because of also Subway's flexibility in rewarding me. Like I was rewarded with manager roles, and I was able to climb a ladder and not just somebody that was 16 just looking for a high school job. I legitimately climbed to a point where I had enough experience at Subway where if I eventually wanted to own one or be one of these people that inspected stores. Like I had enough on my resume to do that. And knowing that I had that freedom because of my owners and because of Subway itself, I think instilled a lot of that and helped me, honestly, in my climb and radio.
And you were saying you were running a couple of Subways at the end. Is that correct?
Yeah. So our brother, the brother of the owner of the one at West Babylon, opened one out east, and then they kind of both shared profits on it. And at one point, I was filling in at both, and then it got to the point where I was strictly working at the other one and left the original one. So yeah, at one point, I had my toes in multiple Subways because that was how the owners viewed me. I was versatile enough to, once I was driving on my own and had a car, that if they were a man down at the other place, hey, we'll give you Shaun for a day. He's really good. And it ended up working out. And that was good too, because I got to experience different crowds, different versions. The Subway I worked at originally, it was really busy for dinner, not as busy for lunch. The other Subway was in an industrial complex. It was really busy for lunch, less busy for dinner. And I got to kind of get a feel for all sorts of crowds, all sorts of people skills, which I think helps in radio as well, Mike. With the patients dealing with callers, if you're dealing with customers, there's a lot of stuff that went into it.
Maybe this has nothing to do with anything I've just asked, and I might just end up cutting this out. But
okay,
were there any Subway romances that happened where people would fall in love while at work?
Interesting. There were definitely crushes for sure, especially at the second location I was at, where it kind of became very much big group hangouts, and people would be, I guess kind of, making out with each other, or like, oh, you're good looking, whatever. But nothing really dating ever materialized. And I did find out later on I had my now wife and girlfriend at the time, but there was somebody who was good looking who worked at Subway who years later admitted that, she was kind of hoping that I would break up with my girlfriend because she always had a crush on me. And when I tell you, she was probably out of my league at that point too. And I remember thinking to myself, wait, what? You didn't even give up that vibe at all. And she was like, oh no. She was like, yeah, I really had a crush on you. So missed opportunities maybe. But no actual romances I can give you. I wish I had a spicier story for you than that.
All right, I feel you. Well, Shaun, I don't know. I just jumped in my head. I wanted to ask that before I let you roll, and I appreciate your time. You're giving me a lot of it, so thank you. I'm going to be a parent in a couple months, so I want to know any recommendations on strollers, any other baby bullshit you think would be good to buy.
Well, number one, this
is more of a personal question.
Anything Britex is the company related you are going to be safe on. And the other thing I will preach to you is that it doesn't get easy. It gets easier in strides, but you need to be prepared to be the most patient person on the face of the earth, because the first 2 months of the lack of sleeping and crying, it will fry your brain cells. And then when they finally get in a groove of sleeping, you will get to the points where there's crying and you don't understand the crying. You just need to find your grooves. And I guess my best advice would be everybody's going to have a way to parent and tell you how to parent. It's something you can only find out for yourself. It is, just patience is the key. But what I tell you, you're going to find something completely different. When somebody else tells you, you're going to find something completely different. Every kid, every baby seems to be different, but they all require patience. I can't preach patience enough.
Host, producer, father, and Subway artist, sandwich artist, Shaun Morash. Shaun, thank you for hopping on Mike Delivers again. I appreciate it, man.
Later, Mike.
Thank you, Shaun, for the time on Mike Delivers. You are now a 2-time guest. I think that's the first person that's been on this podcast twice. The first time we talked about food delivery, this obviously was more just about Subway and his time at Subway. And that time he saw a naked man on the beach that ended up going in and getting extra meatballs for his sandwich. Can't make this shit up. All right, as I promised, I will read the answers from the Facebook question this week. Don't forget, if you want to answer it, feel free to. Mike Delivers Pod on Facebook. That's me. Also, Michael, if I can say my name. My name is Michael Biseglia. All right, your go-to snack during the quarantine. Here we go. Let's read them off. Rosemary and Gotti Geisler says Halo ice cream. April Marshallek wrote, I like the peanut butter swirl bars a lot from them. John Peruso, and I'm fucking up his name again, and I should have taken notes of that. Never seen this before. Arby's frozen curly fries. Interesting. Matt Richardson said toast and jelly. Richard Butler, cream cheese stuffed cherry peppers from Stop and Shop. April Marshallek again, Ben and Jerry's cookie dough core. Michael Shavo Bo said, spoonfuls of peanut butter, Kroger brand, creamy. You can quote me. Tommy Jenkins with the always popular cantaloupe. John Sherrill, he got a like from me with leftovers. John Angotti, wine, cheese, salami, repeat. Alex Benetzowitz said some stupid-looking protein thing. That looks terrible. Ryan Hickey said Klondike bars. Matt Burston wrote beer. Amanda Chen said carbs and liquid carbs. Sarah Pember, popcorn and peanut butter. Stacy Berman Lynn, goldfish crackers. Gerald the mailman, Cajun food, some cracklins. Daria Fennel said sour gummy bears. Lori Geisler, chocolate chip chewy bars or cheddar Pringles. Antonio Grillo, popcorn, chocolate, and dry Cheerios. Sounds like you're 6, Antonio. Jose Ariano said, whatever is in the Uber Eats customer's delivery bag. Just kidding, y'all. I added the y'all. Probably cheddar cheese squares with crackers or maybe some Welch's fruit snacks. Shit, this got a lot of answers. Andrew Geisler said, Aldi's fruit snacks. Tom Geisler said, Ben & Jerry's chocolate fudge brownie. Keto sucks. And Michael Morse, who's a former baseball player, I guess we're friends on Facebook, said rum and Coke. Always popular with the alcohol there. All right, so those are the answers. We'll have a new poll question. Don't forget, head over to my Facebook page. You can read those. You can find my information, social medias, Mike Delivers Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's been fun doing these IG videos. I put a little tease out there of a food taste test. That's all part of the Patreon page. My wife is giving me a food. I'm blindfolded, and I taste it, and I have to pick and guess what the food is. Full videos on Patreon. Big shout out to me for theprosclub.com. It's the podcast network that's been started here. If you want to get more podcasts like Bad Weather Fans with Mike and Alex, we talk a lot of hoops. Outside the Box with Mike and Leon, we talk a lot about just life shit and what's going on in the world. Real Talk Basketball with Rex Walter, 7-year NBA veteran. He's got his own podcast that's on the Pros Club. He's talked of coaches like Stan Van Gundy, who's got some real interesting things to say right now about especially what's been going on with these NBA proposals and the quarantine. Next week, conversation with my man Andrew from Lunchbox. I think you guys will like this. It's an important conversation. Try to get on the inside of what's really going on with these third-party apps and how they're taking advantage of restaurateurs and customers alike right now when we all really need to be coming together. I'm not saying everybody's doing this, so I don't want to, blanket every single company like that on every single trip, but it's something that's happening, and it's something that we need to be aware of. Thank you to Shaun Morash for hopping on the episode, hopping on the podcast. Thank you for coming on and talking about your experience, your decade-long trip. Wow, that was a terrible job of all of that, and I'm not editing it to expose just how poorly I'm talking right now. Thank you to Beautiful Noise. You are the soundtrack to this podcast. It would not be the same without you guys. You bring me in, you bring me out. I love to hear this music. Thank you so much. This has been episode 77. Next time, episode 78 will come out. My wife and I try a sandwich from Panera Bread as we put an end to May Madness. This has been episode 77. We'll see you next time for episode 78. Come on, turn the podcast on. It's Friday night and I won't be long. Gotta do my hair, put my makeup on. It's Friday night and I won't be long till I hit the dance floor. I got all I need. No, I ain't got cash. I got you, baby. Baby, I know $8 bills to have fun tonight. Baby, I don't need dollar bills to have fun tonight. I don't need no money, as long as I can feel the beat. I don't need no money, as long as I keep dancing. Come on, turn the podcast on. It's Saturday and I won't be long. Gotta paint my nails, put my high heels on. It's Saturday and I won't be long till I hit the dance floor. I got all I need. No, I ain't got cash, but I got you, baby. That's real. I love Cheap Thrills.